Up next on the bench, Orange basketball is hot. How hot? 4-game win streak hot. But can they keep it up on the road versus Boston College? We'll show you if the Orange clawed a victory away from the BC Eagles. And that's not all. SU lacrosse also on a road trip, taking on the big bad Blue Devils down in Duke. It was a doozy. I won't spoil it, but this one went down to the wire. You won't believe this dramatic finish. Stay tuned. Women's lacrosse sport a 5-game win streak, but they want 6. All the details coming up. An action-packed On the Bench starts now. Welcome to On the Bench. I'm Nick Walters, alongside my analysts John Rauchi and Nick Petroccioni. It was a wild week of sports on the Hill, but we start on the hardwood. After a 4-game home stretch, Orange basketball hit the road to face Boston College. A daunting schedule is ahead for SU, so Boeheim's boys need momentum. Let's get to the highlights. Syracuse waltzes into Chestnut Hill, having won 4 straight. Tyler Lydon shooting around, he would put on a show. Malachi Richardson gets it going early at the corner, drains it from downtown, tying it up 4-4. Boston College also showing off the perimeter game, though, as Matt Milan knocks down the 3-ball. He's pretty good at that, finishing the day with 5 trays. Syracuse still with a 21-13 lead midway through the first. Frank Howard drives the lane and gets it to the lob for Lydon. Flaunting that freshman chemistry puts the Orange up 9. Matt Milan answers with a nifty lay-in, cutting the Orange lead to 1 at the break. We get into the second, and Dennis Clifford is a paint monster. Grabs his own board, puts it home despite the contact, getting the end one to go. Too easy for the Eagles' big man. BC up on Cuse 40-39, but the Orange caught fire. In transition, Tyler Lydon with the catch and shoot buries it. Syracuse up 64-45 halfway through the third, and it's just getting started. Michael Benajay wants 3 and gets it, making it 63-48, out of reach for Boston College. We go to the grass as Syracuse men's lacrosse takes on Duke. SU comes off a crushing overtime loss versus Johns Hopkins. You just know they're hungry for a win. Let's see if they got it. Orange and Blue Devils ready to lock horns in Durham. ACC foes with lots on the line. Midway through the second quarter, Duke's Deemer class dodges attacks, flings it, money. Syracuse still with a comfy 7-4 lead. Orange would extend that lead as Joe Gillis launches one in for a score off the quick restart. 11-6 SU with 7 ticks left in the half. But Brad Smith finds class. Class finds net. Blue Devils finding ways to stay in this thing, only down 3 with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And this class guy is giving Syracuse fits. Another one, a blazing shot, hits the net. 15-14 Duke up with only 3 minutes left, but Cuse is not going down easy. Derek DeJoe threads it past Danny Fowler, fumbled across the ground for the score. Tied up at 15, and this one is going into OT. But this would not take long. Less than a minute into it, it's Chad Cohn with position, loops the stick in an O to nab the W. Duke players go nuts. Syracuse players don't know what just happened. Otto's in tears somewhere. The thriller comes to an end. The home team, Duke, topping the Orange 16-15.
There's no way that they go to the Final Four.
Some pessimism from our analysts on the long-term prospects of Syracuse basketball. We'll see if they can turn it around and prove these guys wrong later in the season. For On the Bench, alongside John Rauchi and Nick Petroccioni, I'm Nick Walters. See you next week. Welcome back inside TSTV Studios. As College Press Box moves on, it's time for Unhooked. I'm Nick Walters, joined by college basketball analyst Steve Helwick, here to talk sports off the 40 acres. As Winter Storm Stella freezes over the Northeast, March Madness heats up. Missed any action? Don't fret. Steve has you covered. And Michigan's win extends their record on neutral courts to 8-0. In a tournament made up of only neutral courts, the Big Blue streak may just continue. The Gamecocks' win certainly turned heads, but even broke records. South Carolina scored 65 in the second half, marking the most points ever scored against Coach K in a single half. As the Longhorns watch from home, the bracket of 68 has dwindled to a Sweet 16. In the process, not one of the millions of brackets escaped the weekend unscathed. 0 perfect brackets remain, Steve. 18.8 million brackets were filled in ESPN's Tournament Challenge. Only 18 remain with all Sweet 16 teams correct. After a little long division, that comes out to 99.999904% of brackets busted. Steve, 2 rounds into these playoffs, what has surprised you the most? Soon the Sweet 16 will become an Elite 8. And then, of course, a Final Four. Steve, some teams are truly contending, and others are just merely coasting. Project for us which programs will outlast these next 2 rounds and make it to Phoenix in April. Go bold or go home, Steve. Of that Final Four, which team will cut the nets on April 3rd, taking the helm as national champions of college basketball? We'll see if Steve's dart throw will prove accurate over the coming weeks. Even with #1 seed Villanova and Vegas favorite Duke out of the picture, no team is even at 20% odds to win the tournament, according to ESPN. For all bracketeers, the unpredictable nature of March Madness is, yes, maddening. Coming up on College Press Box, we narrow our focus back on Austin. A look ahead to this week's action in Texas sports on the other side of the break. I think something has to be said for undefeated. Look, see all the times in sports when there are those certain teams that get it clicking in the end and they have that rhythm. Okay, I think Gonzaga has the razzle-dazzle, the oomph, that X factor to make their way into the Final Four, Steve. Welcome back inside TSTV Studios. Up next on College Press Box is Unhooked, your weekly dose of sports off the 40 acres. I'm Nick Walters, joined by Mackenzie Palmer. Coming up, we'll show you a pair of jaw-dropping buzzer beaters. Which one is better? We'll leave you to decide. Call me a monkey because these shots are making me go bananas. Mackenzie, which buzzer beater takes home the prize as the most bonkers? Well, buzzer beaters aside, the NBA season is kicking into high gear. With only 40 days remaining until playoff basketball tips off, what should fans be looking for, Mackenzie? Well, going from the ACC to the Big 12, I think Kansas certainly deserves our attention as they're entering championship week on an 8-game tear with their eyes set on the big dance. Next up on Unhooked, sheer speed. With the NFL Combine in full swing this past weekend, all eyes were glued on the 40-yard dash. So the unthinkable is now reality. Chris Johnson dethroned as 40-yard dash champ. Watch out, though. I may give Ross a run for his money in the 2020 NFL Combine.